Business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on the IBGN radio network.
Yeah.
Today, we're crafting credibility in the digital age. We have a special guest, Mitchell Levy, to help us with the discussion. A global credibility expert, Mitchell recently delivered a TEDx entitled, "We Are Losing Our Humanity, and I'm Tired of Watching It Happen." Having recently interviewed over 500 leaders, Mitchell brings unparalleled insights into how credibility can be the ultimate differentiator in today's competitive landscape. But before we bring Mitchell on, let's go around and introduce everyone. While we're doing that, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, have them join us. We strive to make the digital download an interactive experience. Audience participation is highly encouraged. All right. Alex, would you join us? Introduce yourself, please.
I will join you and introduce myself.
Thank you.
So my name's Alex Abbott, occasionally known as the bearded sales guy, depending on which digital corridors I'm walking. So I'm the founder of Sapiro, and I'm particularly interested in this topic today because I don't know if our guest Mitchell is in the green room and he can hear us yet, but I wonder if he's heard of Dr. Julian Birkinshaw and the work that he's done around the competitive advantage and the importance of human beings being human and leveraging their personality on digital. But I'm also a proud DLA Ignite partner.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you. Adam, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good evening.
You're on mute, Adam. Schoolboy error. Yes, hello, everybody. It's good afternoon for us in England. I'm Adam Gray, co-founder of DLA Ignite. And this is a fascinating subject, so I'm really looking forward to delving into this today.
Absolutely. And Andrew's checking in. Andrew Slesser says, good morning, good afternoon.
Hi, Andrew.
Thank you, Adam. Tim.
Welcome, everybody. Yes, my name's Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. And I'm particularly interested in watching and talking with our guest today. Having watched his TED Talk, I particularly like the research that he did with influencers, where many of them didn't even turn up the call he had. So I thought that was
they lost their credibility.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in talking today.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results, a proud DLA Ignite partner, and I'm not famous for writing anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I said,
what are you working on, Rob?
I am working on a book. I am working on Stop Pitching and Start Selling.
Oh.
The Social Enablement Blueprint.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, due fall of 2023. Yes, I know. We've had
that's autumn for our UK listeners.
Yes. That's back in time for everyone listening. Anyway, I digress. As I said, this week on the Digital Download, we'll speak with Mitchell Levy. Mitchell challenges the conventional wisdom that defines business success and instead maps out a profound shift towards practices grounded in credibility. Let's bring him on. Mitchell, good morning and welcome.
Hi, Mitchell.
It is great to be here. What a beautiful intro. I'm feeling honored. Thanks for having me.
What time is it with you, Mitchell?
It is 6 a.m. It is early for normally I'm only awake at this time if I stayed up. Not
Nice.
Mitchell, it's great having you here. Thank you so much, especially for this ungodly time. But we wanted to start by having you tell us a little bit more about you and how you got here.
So I've been in, thank you. Well, let's just start with the most important stuff. Happily married for 34 years, have a son who's 25. I've been in Silicon Valley for 35 years. I've started 20-ish companies. I have sat on the board of a NASDAQ company for 9 years. I've some of the companies that I currently still run, I have 4 publishing companies. We've published 750 books. I have created executive business programs for 2 different Silicon Valley universities. 2021, I was asked to join Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches organization, so I do executive coaching. And I think the thing that is probably, and that's all, we'll just say that's all stuff. Okay. When I think about who I am, I think about, I love my best to challenge the status quo, to create simplicity and do it in a container of trust. And so everything that I do is focused around that. And have some really cool programs that got initially birthed out of the credibility research I've done, and then had a major upgrade about 3 years later.
Okay.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Mitchell, I wanted to start with a foundational question. What's the problem with the conventional wisdom that defines business success?
God, that's a really broad question. Would you narrow that a little bit or give me context? I mean, I love the question, and I could answer it, and I'm not sure if I'm answering the right question, so try it again.
Well, that's the beauty of this question. It is intended to be broad to let you go in whatever direction you want to go. That's a little inside baseball. But what I'm wondering about...
Happy to take it, but, you know.
Yeah, what I'm wondering about is when you, like in the title of your TEDx, we're losing our humanity, and I'm tired of watching it happen. So what is getting us there? Is it business success and how we define it? Is it that we're just chasing the wrong things? What is causing you this angst, I suppose, is the real crux of the issue.
Yeah, okay, you've narrowed it down. I have 2 different approaches, so I'll get to at least one, and maybe we'll get to another.
We have time for all of it.
In terms of us losing our humanity, you look around at a number of the world leaders, and what you're seeing is getting things done despite being polite, being kind, being focused on the human dignity is losing. And so from a business perspective, what that really means is many people have been taught how to do things in a really difficult way. And a lot of times it's some consultant or some coach who makes it more complicated so they can charge more money. And so what happens a lot of times, all of us, I'm sure at some point in time has been approached by someone who's done work in the past by Tony Robbins, and they've created a multi-million-dollar event, and they've created a funnel, and then for 15,000 or 15,000 quid, they can actually get the funnel for them. Now, it's quite possible that they started off with something that worked. That said, that's not necessarily going to work for you in this time or for your audience. And so what happens is we are continually selling those people who are marketers, marketing cookie cutter approaches. So solutions that may generically work for some people, but don't really work for most. And so COVID allowed many marketers to actually be able to sell because everyone was looking for the next right answer. And even though the answer may sound good, it may not be the right answer for them. And so I think what happens is we've made life way too complex, and we forgot the fundamentals that we were taught when we were younger.
I love how you say that we're being sold the solution, and so often that's what we're looking for, isn't it? And not the process, but the result.
Do you
How
guys
do you?
have you guys seen, if you're not in the US, do you know the easy button? Have you guys seen
Oh
the
yeah,
easy button, the Staples easy? Yeah, for some odd reason we want this, but this doesn't. And it actually makes sound too, but this doesn't exist. The simple button exists. The easy button does not.
and yet so many people are willing to buy it when we're being sold that easy button.
Alex is just
And-
about to go and buy one.
Yeah. And when that one doesn't work, we blame the vendor, but buy the next one.
Oh, so true. Very insightful.
So that leads me to the next question, then, which is, well, what's the link between credibility and sustainable business growth?
I'm by the way, I thank you so much for watching the TEDx. It's called as you said, we're losing our humanity, and I'm tired of watching it happen. And when you look at the definition in the dictionary today, the definition was put into place at a time where everyone didn't have a camera, everyone didn't have a microphone. So the definition was put in place when credibility meant the quality in which you're trusted. And because we have the opportunity to really see people, get to know people, get to work with people, and the concept of social proof, the ability that we get to see other people doing that, we're now at the stage where the extension of the word credibility, it's the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked. And what's really interesting, the fact that we do have the ability to almost touch any person on the planet, that means that your competition is available around the world at different price points, different delivery models. Almost everything has been democratized.
Mhm.
So what's interesting is when you're thinking about the word credibility, what you need to think about as a business, whether it's a business owner or a business of 10,000 employees, is who are you? Are you trusted? And trust has a number of components associated with it. As the customers or prospects are getting to know the company, now if it's a company of one, it's they're getting to know you. If it's a company of 10,000, it's getting to know the weakest link in the organization. And the last piece is, as they get to know you, do they like you? So I have to tell you, what's interesting to me, if you saw two people, two different vendors, and we'll just go at the individuals, and they both were trustworthy, they both delivered well, they both, as you get to know them, you weren't disappointed with their politics. You liked them both. Just one was a jerk and one was nice. To you as an individual making the decision that the person who's not nice is not credible. And so credibility really is the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked. And when I was growing up, I don't know you guys, were you taught that? Because I wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I watched your TEDx. Thought it was great. I'd been following a guy called Dr. Julian Birkinshaw. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He did some research. Yeah.
Oh no, I was going to say I am actually getting a PhD. I'm done with the coursework and about to start the dissertation. And it is on clarity. And I looked him up. So I hadn't heard. Thank you for saying it in the preamble. I looked him up, and I will make sure he gets quoted in my in the dissertation. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff to learn. But I've not met met or heard him prior to you saying something.
Yeah. So he did a presentation which is on YouTube back in 2014, and he was talking about the fact that we are exiting the knowledge era and we're entering the post-knowledge era. And when you think about AI and how generative AI has helped to make knowledge and insight become a commodity, really. This idea of using insight and your knowledge as a competitive differentiator to open new doors with your target audience is no longer working because everyone's doing it. And so, to your point, Mitchell, I think businesses have a great opportunity to empower their people to develop their personal brands and create content that makes them stand out and look different, ultimately creating a competitive advantage for the company that they work at, because people are unique. Not any one person is the same.
Alex, I absolutely love that. You gave me at least 2 or 3 things to jump off of. First of all, I agree with you. What I often say is that thought leadership is now ubiquitous. Just like, Rob, doing a book, we've published 750. I've written 65. Book publishing is ubiquitous. Anyone who wants to really can, right? And on thought leadership, anyone who could write and craft the appropriate prompt can appear, double quotes, can appear to be a thought leader and be able to have the information they need. When you take it like you mentioned and think about it from a company perspective, command and control does not deliver the type of solution you need, because you don't need, in today's world, a number of people who are just following orders. Because if they're just following orders, they're not engaged in the organization. They're not enjoying what they're doing. The lie we were told, this is a lie we were told. You're born, by the way, when you're born, you're so creative when you're young and you're looking forward to life. And then you get put into school. Most of your creativity is beaten out of you. And then you put into the workforce and you're told, hey, you should work in a job your entire life. And when you're done, you could retire and you'll have enough money to enjoy what you want to do. Well, that worked maybe in the industrial age. That does not work now, because if your employees are really empowered to be successful, you could really make 1 + 1 = 11. Your employees can make the sum of the parts so much greater than a whole, but it requires a completely new management structure and approach to how you're running a business.
So you touched on an incredibly simple concept, and you highlighted it in a lovely way. So you've got two potential vendors. They're both credible. They've both got insights. They've both got great CVs. They're both good at delivering this. All of that stuff, which is hygiene out in the marketplace. And unless you're very unlucky, most people can do most of these jobs competently well. And the reason that I shop with you is because I like you. Actually, that's the differentiating factor. So, that is a masterclass in stating the obvious. However, why is it that the number of people that actually action that understanding that it's stating the obvious is so tiny? We spend our whole life talking to organizations that are digging themselves deeper and deeper into a hole, and we say, here's what you need to do, and they go, yeah, you're probably right, but I just need to keep digging because this is what I know. So why are people so reluctant to say, actually, Mitchell, I like you, you're somebody that I want to do business with. Oh, well, if I feel that way, maybe everybody else feels that way, and maybe that should influence my behavior. Why don't people make that jump?
What's really interesting, Adam, is there are newer companies that are coming along that the CEO recognizes that we need to change. And as a result, you hear about the handful of these companies where there's good corporate culture. They focus on each and every one of their stakeholders. So when I did till now get an MBA. And when I was reading all the books, one of the things that I read, now this is a handful of years ago. I have a couple gray hairs. When I was reading the books, what they talked about was how important each and every stakeholder was and how important customers were. And almost I've been an entrepreneur since 1997. Almost every company that I worked for, although the words might have been, we care about our customers, almost every company put processes in place that the customer service department had the least amount of funding, and they were at least prepared to be of power to the customer. And sometimes, so, when you're at a large company, 10,000 employees, 100,000 employees, now you're at the whim of which the management is trying to optimize how much revenue comes into place so that, and if it's a public company, so that they can, on a quarter by quarter basis, show the metrics that will allow the investors to want to invest more. So they're not actually working for all stakeholders. They're focusing on one primary stakeholder, which is the stakeholder that says how much is the company worth. If you step back, and now let's go back to a smaller firm. If you step back to a smaller firm and you're the CEO, you actually have a choice. You have a choice of how you show up. And it is as simple as saying, hey, I'm waking up tomorrow, and I a great example. There's a firm that I'm in conversations with right now, and for the last 25 years, the previous CEO was focused on one thing, and that was, hey, we will run our company in a way that the squeaky wheel, the customer that yells the most, is the one that's going to get service. You could only imagine what the internal organization is like, because everyone now recognizes that whoever yells most gets the most. So you could only imagine employee engagement's not high. You can only imagine that it's not a fun place to work. Now, if you got 25 years of experience doing that, how do you change that overnight? And it's basically a refresh. And what I'd like to say is how, to me, the most simplest way, I really love the word simple, right? So the most simplest way to do that is to step back and go, what playground does this company play in? What is the most simplest way we could think about who this company is and how they show up? Because one of the easiest ways to empower your employee base is that you say, hey, this is what we do. You're now empowered to do it. We've heard many of the stories where you look at the airlines that do a great job of customer service. You look at the hotel industry that has done a great job of customer service. In many cases, what they said, hey, the customer is always right, and you're empowered to spend this amount of money when there's something that's wrong. And by the way, we want to highlight that and show that to other employees. How do you make sure you do it? What are the stories? What have you done recently to make your customers excited? Those sort of stories are very simple, but we haven't really moved those around the world in many different industries. So for those who are watching, listening now, the question is, how can you make your employees happier? And I'm just going to throw something out there. What I will guarantee is that any company, any human can articulate who they are in less than 10 words. And that level of simplicity is something that will allow you to permeate everything else that you want to do.
Wow. So I'm going to take you up on that then. What are some strategies professionals can use to enhance their credibility of their digital footprint? You said 10 words or less? Tell us more about that.
And I'm going to add to digital footprint is one thing. And then I'm going to say it's also how you show up. So as you guys watch the TED Talk, and the TED Talk, there's 10 values associated with credibility. And there's one value in there that was listed twice. And it was the value called integrity. Now, by the way, what was funny, guys, is is the TED Talk you saw was who I was 3 years ago after the research. The book, Credibility Nation, is who I was 3 years after the research. When I actually published the research, I know the word integrity was there twice. I actually didn't know why. I just knew that the numbers popped out. It actually took me a year of practice before I actually realized that. And what happened is, regarding the concept of trust, the integrity component or the value associated with trust is your external integrity. It's what you say to the world. Regarding getting to know you, now, by the way, it's trust, know, like. It's not that I know of you, it's that I actually know you. And the integrity associated with being known is your internal integrity. This is where everyone having a camera and a microphone comes into place, because the old parental way of parenting, do what I say, not what I do, the old corporate way of command and control, this is what you do, I'm not going to do it, but you guys do it, those don't work. The integrity, both external and internal, need to be aligned, right? So it's more than just the digital footprint. That said, on the digital footprint, if you're showing up in more than one channel, you want to be consistent. If you say, when you're talking to somebody, one thing, and then they go to see reinforcement online, whether it's social proof through testimonials, whether it's endorsements, engagements, whether it's anything you want to look at, whether the websites itself or social media, if there's inconsistency, there's a word I use called crud. If there's inconsistency, if there's crud sitting there, what happens is you start losing credibility piece by piece. So the easiest way is if you can, and there's a concept, I think I said this in the TEDx, there's a concept called a CPOP. And what that stands for is customer point of possibilities. And if every company, every human can articulate their CPOP, which is in essence a way to express who you are in 10 words or less. If you could do that, what happens is it's easy to figure out. That becomes the compass that helps guide you of what's next. Should I give you guys the formula of the CPOP?
Please.
Yes, please.
All right. So, and by the way, I will tell you, this is simple. And in the interviews, we'll finish on the simple. It's really simple to think about. And what I will tell you is, when I was doing the interviews, I'd send somebody a 16-minute video. Here is how you prepare. And then when they'd get online and I talked to them, and yeah, we talked about some percentage didn't show up, some percentage wasn't ready. What I will tell you is that 98% could not immediately, even after coming prepared, could not immediately articulate their CPOP, customer point of possibilities. And what I'll say, that's because we've been drilled home that every time we're in front of somebody who is potentially a buyer, we're supposed to say, look at me, I'm amazing at what I do. By the way, don't use that clip, because that's not it.
Yeah, we'll snip that.
Snip that. Well, you could have it inside. Just don't, when you take the 1 minute, that's not the one you want to use, right? So what's interesting is, if you are a credible human, or if you are a credible company, you are of service to somebody else. That's okay, right? So if you're of service to somebody else, first question is who? And the second question is, from their perspective, what is either the pain point that they perceive as what they need to get over, or what is the pleasure point that they want to reach? Now, what I'll say is 80% of the time you want to go with a pain point, but there's some audiences where you have to use the pleasure point. And so typically when I think about that, I'm happy to share mine. And we actually, if somebody wants to go through it, we could actually go live and work on somebody else's. When you think about the who, it's 1, 2, or 3 words. A lot of times you hear people say, they'll stand in front of an audience, they'll do their 30-second elevator pitch, and they go, let's see, I work with authors, speakers, podcasters, and then they have a people whose first name starts with L, and by the time they're done, you don't even remember anything. 1, 2, or 3 words. And so for me, I've really narrowed down. And by the way, this is hard for anyone. It's very hard for me to say this. My executive coaching practice, I typically work with companies between 10 and 100 million. That said, my primary focus these days is focusing on coaches. And so I'll share with you my CPOP, which happens to be 8 words. And what I will say to you is when somebody actually shares their CPOP, that's the compass. So when you look at somebody's social media, you look at their website, you want to make sure it's consistently aligned. When somebody shares their CPOP, the goal is that the person who's listening is someone who says, "Tell me more." So imagine in 1, 2, 3 seconds, you've been able to do that. So for me, my CPOP, coaches who've created a job, not a business. Okay, I'm waiting for the tell me more.
Tell me more.
All right, thank you. Now, when you're in an audience like this, normally you would just say, "Hey, let me tell you a little bit more about that." So coaches, and you've looked at all the coaches around the world, and many of them came into play with COVID. They have been taught how to do transformation. There's so many different approaches, and people who will say, "Hey, listen, I will help you," and then they'll teach other coaches, "I'll help you to go from A to B." That said, so many coaches have never been taught how to run a business. They're not entrepreneurial. They don't know how to do business development. And so most of their business comes in from referrals, and their referral network is hot or not, and they just don't know. So I have a complete system that's a done with you approach that allows a coach to become an entrepreneur and have a continual stream of people they're talking to who become referral partners and customers. That tell me more fit into a bucket. Now, depending on who I'm talking to, it works for. Now, it's really hard for me to say just the word coaches because it actually works for coaches, consultants, and any smaller businesses where there's 1 or 2 primary rainmakers. But that said, one of the things that happens is the who. One of the conventional marketing cookie cutter approaches we've been taught is let's make our net so wide that the more people we say we service, eventually we're going to say something that the person who we're talking to is going to say, "Hey, that's me. I fall into that." That is a marketing cookie cutter approach we've been taught. What I'm going to say is the more narrow you could be, the more focused you could be, the more clarity you have, the better chance a person's looking at you and saying, "Hey, you're really credible." A good example, one of the people in my program, her CPOP, successful women, heavy with regret. All you have to do is hear those words and you go, I know somebody. I'm like that. And then, if you're sitting with her and talking to her and you happen to be a male, not a female, you might, "Hey, can you work with me?" She then has the opportunity to say yes if she wanted to. That's typically she works with successful women, not men. Right. And so the more narrow you could be, this is against conventional wisdom, the better opportunity that you're perceived because of the clarity that you're perceived as being someone who's credible. Was that helpful? You let me go for a little bit, but was that
Mitchell? Could you? That was really useful. Thank you. Could you remind me and go through what CPOP is?
Absolutely. So it stands for Customer Point of Possibilities, and it is they're really it's 2 pieces. Now, by the way, I have there's a lot of stuff if you looked it up. At the moment, no one's really using it in this way. So I've got an online course. We do ongoing activities. We help people. I do a 90-minute session once a month. We do have a course you can go to and do it yourself. It's really 2 pieces. First piece is who. 1, 2, or 3 words. So it's who do you serve, and as narrow as you can define that. And the second piece is either the pain point or the pleasure point. So successful women, heavy with regret, pain point approach. Coaching. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to butt in there, Mitchell.
No, that's right.
Just so lovely to hear this, because I've been playing around with my own CPOP for a little while.
Awesome.
I wonder if I could share with you what I think it might be, and you can tell me whether or not it's on the money or needs more work.
I would love that.
That'd be fantastic, Alex.
So, and I've just deleted one word, so it's 10 words.
Okay.
Eliminate poor mental health from sales, make sales fun again.
I have to write it down, so if I'm looking away from the camera, I'm a visual person.
I can put it in the chat. Can I put it in the chat? In our internal chat? No.
So say it again, Alex, because
Yeah,
maybe we can get the audience to comment again.
Eliminate poor mental health from sales, make sales fun again.
And a CPOP is, so customer point of possibility is, who do you serve in 2 or 3 words, and then either the pain point or the pleasure point.
Tim, I was just going to say that.
Sorry. Sorry.
No. I love that. So one of the things I'm going to say, Alex, is we've been taught to do taglines.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to say this. I'm going to say that could be a good tagline. And once I know your CPOP, now you're going to know. So what happens is when you know your CPOP, you could go, hey, does that feel comfortable as a tagline? Right. So yeah, Tim, you got it right. So let's start with Alex. Who do you serve?
Alex, before you do that, I wanted to share some audience comments just to enhance this. So first of all, Jeannie Lehman says, align your external and internal integrity. That was, I think, a callback to what we were talking about earlier. And our resident comedian, Mark Cowison, had piped up with the Tell Me More, quoting Grease. Tell me more. Was it love at first sight? Tell me more. Did she put up a fight? Always great to hear from you, Mark. Thank you. But
wow, that was good. You should say it faster, and maybe
I should sing it too. Yes. Gabe, I apologize in advance. I'm going to get your last name wrong, but I am going to try. Gabe Zubazarada says, "Why is work not fun? Why is sales not fun?" So I think that's the context of what Alex is trying to address, and that's why I share that here.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Gabe. Glad you're tuning in. So Alex, who do you serve?
So I serve salespeople in terms of the services that I provide, and there's a ton of research out there that is saying that there's a mental health endemic in sales. 3 in 5 salespeople are suffering, depending on the research. 4 out of 5 are highly stressed, and from what I see, there's a high degree of pressure on salespeople to perform in their jobs, yet they're not given the tools or the guidance or even the autonomy to be as successful as I'm sure they could be.
So can you be more specific on the salespeople?
B2B.
Is there a certain class? Is it salespeople at small companies, large companies? Is it anybody? 10,000 person sales force? Is it all of the above?
Yeah. So it's anyone in sales, but in terms of my own ICP, it's typically sales teams that I think I can help effectively. Sales teams that want to, operationalize an approach.
Startups, $10 million companies, $10 billion companies. Does it matter?
it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I've got a mix of clients from helping individuals to helping 20 people or more, 20 salespeople or more.
Got it. So we're going to go with sales teams. I like that better than salespeople.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, what would be the pain point that those sales teams that you really address for them?
Yeah. So the pain point would be a number of things. So they're struggling to have conversations with the people that they want to do business with. They're struggling with to the point we were talking about earlier, is demonstrating their credibility at scale digitally to help open the door. They're struggling to then convert those conversations into qualified pipeline. And then that has a knock-on effect on their ability to hit their targets and deliver the revenue that they're being asked to deliver.
Essentially being effective.
Yeah.
What's a pleasure point?
Enjoying your job, leveraging, being creative, hitting your target, enjoying your job, feeling a sense of purpose, feeling a sense of belonging.
So do you think it's important that sales teams enjoy their jobs?
100%. I think it's important for people.
Is it salespeople or is it sales leaders, Alex?
Both.
Okay.
Typically, if you think about, that's a great question, by the way. If you think about who's paying you 80% of your revenue, where's it come from?
Oh, you mean, okay, so what, 20% of the sales team are generating 80% of the revenue? Is that what you mean? Or are you talking about your customers?
No, I think about the customers. The who are you reaching out to? Who's the one that you really need to convince to buy you?
Yeah, usually the budget holder, but other influencers along the way.
Alex, I think he's asking specific to you, though. Are you specifically selling to individuals
thank you.
to corporations?
Who do you need to convince?
Yeah, well, it's always people, an individual. It depends on their role, but typically it's the sales leader.
That, by the way, that was a great question. It's the eventually we would have gotten to whether it's a sales teams or sales leaders, right? Got it. Interesting. And does a sales leader recognize, what do they think? If they're not hitting their goals, what are some of the reasons they think it's not being hit?
Because their team isn't doing enough activities that aren't working, and I mean, it could be a whole host of reasons that could end up being excuses, but I think a lot of the time they don't know.
It's normally, isn't it? Because the sales team are busy and working really hard, but they're working hard on the wrong things. So the things that they're doing are not driving success, and the things that they should be doing that might drive success, they're not focusing on.
That's longer than 10 words, Adam. I'm sorry.
Is it? 10 pages?
Oh, well, there we go. So what we're trying to do at this point is identify the ideal target audience, and then either their pain or their desired future state, and with that come up with the CPOP. Is that right, Mitchell?
I have two I'm going to share. And so normally what'll happen is I'll give you a couple that you could think about, right? And then as you start thinking it through, we could narrow it down, but it's going to sound a whole lot better or different than eliminate mental health from sales, make sales fun again. I mean, as much as like I think that's a great tagline, and it may actually fit in either of these sales points.
Yeah. Robert actually made a comment that got me thinking, which is where's it gone?
You started with the pain, Alex?
Alex. Could I even keep it as simple as just reversing the sentence? So make sales fun again, eliminate poor mental health from sales.
Oh, so I love that as a tagline.
Okay.
I love that as a tagline. So what I would say is if we, and I, by the way, agree, I'll give you a, let me move this over to this side so I can at least look at the camera while I have to see it and write it down. So I would tend to lean towards the pain point. The problem with the pain point is it's potentially harder for the sales leader to want to agree with it. Right. That's why the tagline is positive. So you may end up, because of ego, you may end up going with a pleasure point versus pain point. Mm-hmm. But let me give you both. Okay. So as a pain point, you might be able to do something like sales leaders not knowing why they're missing the goal. And what I would do is I'd probably put not knowing in double quotes. So sales leaders not knowing why they're missing their goal. That would be a CPOP, because the concept of a CPOP, it doesn't say anything about you. It just happens to be a playground you play in.
Okay.
The positive one, which is kind of interesting, sales leaders excited at the board meeting.
Sales is
nice.
I like that.
It from an ego perspective, in this, when you're dealing with sales leaders, huge egos, pleasure point will typically, when you're working with CEOs, typically pleasure point works better than pain point. Then Alex, if it turns out that your CPOP is sales leaders excited at the board meeting, your tell me more is something to the extent, most sales leaders today have been taught incorrectly. They've been taught to beat into their sales teams all the things that make the job not fun. And if it's not fun, they can't relate, not just to themselves, they can't relate to their audience. And if they can't relate to the audience, they're not making the sales they need to make. If you did nothing more than align how you're helping the salespeople get excited about who they are and what they do, when they come to work and they're happy, they're having better conversations, they're meeting their goals, the sales leader is a whole lot happier when they're at the board meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Like those. Thank you,
Alex. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for
that was really good, Alex.
The CPOP live.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Put you and me on the spot, Mitchell.
Yeah. I'm sorry, say it again.
I said I put you and I on the spot, but I learned from that. Thank you very much.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, it's well, first of all, this may not be 100% right for you, but we had a chance to play.
Yeah. Right.
And what'll happen is, normally what happens if you go to sleep tonight and you wake up in the morning and you go, oh my God, that's really it. And by the way, if that's it, I can guarantee you, when you go to your website and you go to your social media, you're going to go, holy cow, I need to do a lot of changes. Everything changes. Now, by the way, the CPOP that you mentioned, or the tagline you mentioned, fits real well into that CPOP. I actually try to use it in the Tell Me More.
Yeah.
I'll just give one more thought. The Tell Me More, you never have to memorize. The CPOP becomes your that is your compass. And as a compass, it's going to help you show up both on and offline in a consistent way. But to Tell Me More, you want to make and share in relation to the audience you're talking to.
Okay.
Right. So Adam, that's why you like the board, because you probably sit in a bunch of board meetings and you're like, wait, how cool would it be if the salesperson was in the, glowing in the board because they hit the sales? Like, sales is what makes the company work, right? That would be amazing. And everyone's going to say, how'd you do that?
I think what's really interesting is that what your process of doing a CPOP is less about sales pitch And the majority of people, when they deliver their headline, whatever that is, it's my elevator pitch, it's how I introduce myself at an event, it's how I introduce myself online through my LinkedIn headline or my opening line when I'm talking to someone. There's, in most cases, people use that as an opportunity to distill their sales pitch into one line. And this is quite the reverse of that, because when you start pitching to me when I don't know you, I'm going to go, "Oh, I don't like that very much." And this is absolutely about speaking half a sentence to somebody, where they're leaning forward and they're going, "Well, go on then." And I love the thinking behind this. Really good.
By the way, thank you so much for summarizing it in a much better accent than I have.
Sadly, the accent is all I have.
I doubt that is true at all.
Mitchell, we have just a few minutes left. Please tell us, how can people learn more about you? What do you have going on these days?
So the easiest, one of the things that we all do as mistakes is we'll iterate a gazillion different places for people to go. And by the time you hit the second or third, you don't remember anything. So it's Mitchell Levy. So it's 3 L's, MITCHELLLEVY.com. And that will get you to wherever you need to go. If you're in an organization, you're like, "Hey, Mitchell, we need to talk," you can get to my calendar. Once a month, we are doing 90-minute clarity sessions. I guarantee everyone will leave the room with their CPOP. I've got a membership community called Credibility Nation. You could take a asynchronous course. It's an hour long and get that yourself. If you're a coach, consultant, you can learn what is our program, the Certified Clarity Specialist program, and learn about that. There is one thing I did that's new, and I'll just share it. It's called referralnetworkclub.com. So it's another once a month, an hour long. You get to come to that. It's $20. And when you sign up, you're sent a 10-minute video, how to craft your CPOP and tell me more. And you have a chance to practice it twice and to meet up to 6 people. If you could spend an hour and find one person who you really like that might be a referral customer, that was a pretty good ROI.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much.
you're
I
welcome.
wanted to share with our audience, we now have a newsletter. Don't miss an episode. Get show highlights, behind the show insights, and reminders of upcoming episodes. Click the QR code on screen here or visit us at digitaldownload.live and click on newsletter. On behalf of our panelists, to our guests, to our audience, thank you very much, Mitchell. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, Mitchell.
And
Brilliant.
we will see you all next time.
Thanks so much for having me.